If I'm gonna do an all EVGA build, obviously I need a chassis of some sort. Now what chassis could possibly be this light? In fact, I think all of the weight in this is the cardboard reinforcement and stuff. So today we're gonna unbox it. This is probably gonna be my new workstation here that I'm gonna use, like a tribute build for EVGA that's used and not just sitting there in the background. Because I thought about having this be the system, the AMD rig, because I'm still adamant about doing an AMD rig to replace my 10900K at home. I'm got the delidding tool literally on the way from DeBauer finally. So I'll be able to delid the 7950X, which I really want to use. And then I thought about putting my 4090 EVGA card in there. But the problem is if I'm going to do an EVGA tribute build and take it home, it has to be all EVGA parts. Well, EVGA, although they made AM4 motherboards, have not and do not have in the current pipeline any AM5 motherboards currently in development. They are working on Z790 first. So that means I would have to use Intel, and I want to use AMD at home. I've already said that. I still stand by that statement. And so that's gonna just have to be not this system. So I went, well, nothing says I can't use this at work, right? Got the 12900K rig in there, which is being weird. So I guess I could just build another weird Intel system. They really protected this thing, didn't they? Today's video is brought to you by the J2Sense merch store. We got t-shirts, gaming mats, mugs, and all that kind of stuff. So whenever you go buy our stuff, we don't have to put other ads here and other annoying crap. So go buy our stuff. So I have some EVGA cases in storage right now, actually. Got the DG cases, white one, glass one. Got the one that looks like a console TV. However, this one right here is actually one that they came out with a little while back. And I asked for one, and they went, that was it. I swear to God. I don't know if Jacob remembers that conversation, but hey, remember those E1 cases? Can I get one? And he was like, The price of this case is not for the faint of heart. However, it is extremely limited, and you'll see why it is awesome in a second. So a lot of closed cell foam. Oh my God, dude, it is so freaking light. If you guys don't know what this is a very like F1 inspired gaming chassis. I don't even think you could call it a gaming chassis technically. It's just a chassis, but check this out. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. It is a all carbon fiber and aluminum case. It's literally reinforced with like cables. It is so freaking neat. But it's all gloss carbon, real carbon, none of that fake carbon crap. And then it's just this tiny little, tiny. That's it. I mean, it's so cool looking. I was trying to decide what color combo do I want to do with this. I now honestly feel like I need to go find something that matches this stainless. Let's just go ahead and now, let's see what this would look like. That's sitting right there. EVGA motherboard. I guess this is where the audience needs to sort of help me out. I'm torn on the idea of doing a custom loop, but the problem is then that means the block, the radiators, the pumps and all that would not be EVGA. I'm just so torn on whether or not I would do a custom loop because those parts would not be EVGA. Or is it enough EVGA to have it be EVGA graphics card, the E1 chassis, the power supply, the motherboard? I guess that's kind of it. Anyway, we should have the vertical mount. I think that's gonna be this guy right here. What I'd like to do today is just kind of get a motherboard up in there and then the graphics card, because I just want to see what it's gonna sort of look like. So these just snap on. So yeah, you could 100% do an inverted build with this if you wanted. There's no reason to, but you absolutely could. These guys just clip on the bottom. I guess I don't know why these weren't pre-installed. I guess they're not pre-installed because like I said, you could invert it. It's $1,600, but it's very custom one-off carbon. I mean, what do you expect? Look at this. It still trips me out. I did not know that this whole thing is suspended. So these are the analog gauges. Oh, there's a vert mount right there. This right here is a, USB to USB. More USB cables. There's a lot of, wow. These are sort of keeps on going there, don't you know? Oh, is that a right angled USB-C? Like specifically for, look at that. This is where I say it's race car inspired, because check this out. There's your buttons and stuff. Dude, that's heavier than the case. Look at this. So it's CPU temperature, another random temperature, and GPU temperature. And then those are where those cables go, right there, to give you all of your connections to your motherboard. So these gauges can do something besides just sit there and look pretty. Let me sort of get this kind of figured out real quick, and then I'll show you guys what it looks like. All right, so here's the gauges attached. You need to be careful when you attach it though. If you don't, they were too tight at the beginning, so when you try and put them on, there's a little metal edge that can scratch the carbon, and I did scratch it a little bit. Fortunately, I kept it in the same spot where the scratches were, so you can't see it. Also too, because it's just clamped on there with the rubber, I find it's either slightly too loose or too tight, where it can't clamp down. I'm not gonna overly over-clamp on the carbon, obviously. So what I chose to do is offset it this way, because the graphics card's gonna be kind of over here. It might even end up being centered. But I decided to offset it this way to sort of balance out, I think, where parts are gonna be. And then when I tilt it back, it can just rest against this plate right here. So when I go pushing the buttons and stuff like this, or plugging anything to the USB, it's not gonna be a huge issue. They also give you these Allen keys, which are perfect for adjusting the tension on these cables. Remember, the whole motherboard, graphics card, power supply, and everything is suspended by these cables. God forbid anything should happen, they do provide you with 4 extra cables. So they're sitting right here. These are steel, and they are black. They are very heavy duty, but here they are. There's extra ones if you need them. I still have to play with the tension a little bit to kind of tune out the rocking. There's a slight rock, even with the feet on there still, but I think once there's weight in this thing, that will be less of an issue. So yeah, I wanna get a motherboard in here real quick and get this vertical mount in there, and then we'll see what EVGA's vision for this was. So in terms of the vertical mount, it's pretty neat. So they give you the included cable. I'm not sure if it's a 4.0. Okay, so that's good. Anyway, attaches to the motherboard. I used the Kingpin board. This is probably the board I will use for this build. It's a Z690. I'll probably still put a 13900K in there. That attaches there, but here's the thing, that looks super ugly, right? It's cool because they give you this little plate that goes on there and just makes it look so much more presentable already right there. And then you've got this rear plate, this rear piece right here that attaches in here somewhere. Cable management in this system is going to be a lot of fun. And by fun, I mean both a challenge and I get to be creative. I think this might be where some 3D printing comes in to 3D print some cable channels that we can make things kind of pass through without just being cables flailing everywhere. Most of the cables that come with this system though are sort of custom length. You can see right here, I attached the USB-C on the bottom. So just as an example, like it has to go, and I plugged it in backwards, like I had to flip it. Anyway, this plugs into the gauge cluster, that has to go there, and then this has to make its way back down to the gauge cluster somehow, and we have slack. So it'll be interesting to see how this is gonna work. This is barely gonna clear, but there's a support bracket on, and this is very wobbly until it's all mounted down. And again, everything is connected to the motherboard tray, which is only hanging by wires. I have to reiterate that if you see me wobbling around, but this is barely gonna clear the top of the gauges. But check this out. So we're gonna stop right there, otherwise it's gonna end up being an entire build video, and I don't want that because I have some things I gotta figure out. Cable management will be quite interesting, but you can see the graphics card is in there. I think it absolutely has to be the 4090 in this. Absolutely has to be. 13900K and a Z690, so we'll be giving up a few features. But the Kingpin motherboard in there looks really good. The only thing I I'm not a fan of the gold edges and stuff that he uses because that's kind of his color with all the stainless that's in here. This is where I need you guys to kind of tell me, how do you feel about the idea of this being a custom loop versus the CLCX cooler that they just came out with? I feel like a custom loop could be quite fun because it would just be a CPU. So I'd be able to mount a reservoir right here, which would also help block some wires, honestly. If I could mount a reservoir right here, an upper 360 rad, I believe the 360 will fit right here. And then that gives me room for tubing and stuff. And then I'm thinking the accent color, maybe the neon, like the alien green, because I think that would go really good with the carbon. And it's just, I mean, they always were an EVGA graphics card supplier. So I think having those hard rigid tubes here somewhere would look really sick. But anyway, that's where we're gonna end it. Now that it's got some weight in there, it's not wobbling anymore. And then the power supply, once it's in the back right here, will really balance this all out. So there you go, guys. The EVGA Tribute build I said that we would do. Yep, underway. Thanks for watching. Put a link down below. They are still available, I believe. Maybe I think they're available. So it might be your last chance to get one. This is so freaking cool.